Hi, Kai. How's it going?
I'm well. How's everybody today?
Perfect, perfect. Really
So we've got Sean, we've got Michael, and Federico. How y'all doing?
Federico, yeah.
Good, man.
All right. Yeah, the three of us started Methamphetamine a year ago, I think, after we met at Metal Days and a European Metal Festival. And yeah, we are very happy to have you. Like, you're one of my favorite thrash bands, definitely. I carry you around on my phone like since years.
All right. Well, good. Well, thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Cool.
We love all the music that you made, man. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started playing music when I was in 3rd grade.
Cool.
And by the time I got into high school was when I really started playing. I started on trumpet, and then I started playing bass once I started listening to stuff like Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, AC/DC, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, that sort of thing really spoke to me. And so, I made a terrible decision to continue. Consequently ruined my financial life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we can understand that.
I remember in 2012, I was totally drunk in 2012, and I sent you a message on Facebook. You guys need to reunite, and you guys need to play again. I remember that. That was so fascinating. And finally, a few years later, you started again. What came up? What came to that conclusion? Like,
yeah, the funny thing about this band in particular, EXHORDER, is we always connected very quickly to the audience. When we were teenagers just starting out, as soon as we started, it was just like people were there always. And for whatever reason, we just couldn't seem to stay happy together, I guess. And it's not an easy thing when you get 5 people who are strong-minded, strong-willed, and life happens, life gets in the way, people start having kids, creating other business opportunities for themselves. And so the door just keeps revolving with people in the band, people out the band. And I think it's just the public demand for what we did starting back in the 80s that really just kind of kept us going. Well, let's give it another shot. Let's give it another shot. So here we are in 2021, almost 2022, and still going strong after I guess 4 years now having put it back together. So I guess the landscape of things changes a little bit here and there, but at the end of the day, we're still up there playing the songs, and that's really, I think, the most important thing.
Yeah. And who started the restart of the band? Who initiated everything? Like, somebody started to call around to the guys, and
well, this time around, really, I think it was jasonviebrooks that really pushed for it to happen. Jason's been with us on and off since 1993. Right before we called it quits back then, he was actually jamming with us, and we were going to include him in the new lineup. And it fell apart again then for the second time. And he came back into the fold when we had reunited in 2009, shortly after Frankie Sparcello passed away. We had Jorge Caicedo fill in on some shows, and then Jason came back into the fold. And then it fell apart again in 2011. And then I guess around 2017, Jason had spoken with a guy named Simon Fullerman, and Simon owned a management company called All Independent Service Alliance. So he and Jason had talked about EXHORDER and found out that Simon was very interested in EXHORDER and big fan. So Jason kind of put it in motion. he dropped it in our ears, and we were like, yeah, sure, let's give it another try. So
cool, awesome. What feeling was it to be on stage again after such a long time?
For me, really, I've been in so many bands. I kind of just look at it like the stage is kind of like the bedroom. You go to the bedroom when you're tired. You go to the shower,
Right.
go to the bathroom when you need a shower to use the toilet. And so it's kind of the same thing. I find my way back on the stages with a lot of different people. So the bands themselves are less of something that I go, wow, I'm up here with so and so. Unless, of course, I'm doing a guest spot with somebody that I really like. So then it gets exciting for me. Otherwise, I don't think that much of it when I'm up there. I'm just up there kind of doing my job. And, you know, the experience that I have with whomever is on the stage is always very special. And the connectivity that you have with the audience is the most important thing. But if somebody put a gun to my head and said, how many people have you played on stage with, or how many bands have you played on stage with? I don't know. Just tell my wife and children I love them and shoot me.
Right. I wasn't aware that you have so many projects going on.
Sorry?
I wasn't aware of that you have so many projects going on, so many other bands and projects.
Yeah, currently I have quite a few. I've got a couple of local bands that I play with. We just play cover songs, you know, other people's music just to make a little money and have a little fun. So that keeps me busy a little bit when we're not on tour, but I'm still with Trouble as well as EXHORDER. I've got a solo album I'm writing and recording right now.
Cool.
I just recorded a song that Rick Ross, that played with Death on the Leprosy album.
Wow.
He and Lucky Erickson on drums had recorded some songs like 12 years ago, and he sent a couple to me. And he said, in addition to singing, would you like to play bass on this? So I said, sure. So we just did the first song last week. We're figuring out right now what exactly we're going to do with it. It's not a band. We're just recording songs. So, but it sounds really cool, and it's nice to work with Rick. I really, really enjoyed the Leprosy album when it came out. So for me, it's like an honor to work with this guy for sure. And the drummer, Lucky, he's really good too. So in addition to that, I just did a guest spot on an album that's going to be coming out probably early next year. Aorta is the name of the project. And a fella named Predrag Glogovac, a fella, he lives in Norway. He put an album together. He played in some bands back in the 90s, but I think he just had an urge to record an album. So he assembled a team of different people that are, I guess big name at what they do in some kind of way. I'm one of the singers that he enlisted to sing. I sang on like 4 songs maybe. And luckily, one of the songs that I sang on, there's also, it's all of the singers on the album are singing on the song, and Snake from Voivod is guesting on this one as well. So like for me, that was really cool to be on a song with Snake.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't know how much I'm supposed to even be talking about that stuff. I'm probably not supposed to talk about it. I'll probably just got myself in a lot of trouble.
It's okay for us. Don't worry.
But yeah, strike that from the record, Your Honor.
Just put it pause.
So Kyle, what has it been like for you for in the last 12 to 18 months with COVID and everything? How have you taken the last year and a half? So you've been working on some stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah.
How's it been for you?
Frustrating. The toughest part was we were 2 shows away from completing the tour with Overkill in the US when lockdown happened and they called everybody, shut it down, said go home. That was March of 2020. As you remember, that was right when everything was really like worldwide, oh shit, we've got problems. So with the touring shutdown, it really, we were really just hitting our stride over the last few years, having played a lot of shows overseas and a couple of U.S. tours. But I mean, what's one more thing to slow this band down, right? I mean, we sit out for 27 years. We come back, and now we got to sit out another year and a half because of COVID. But, I mean, it looks like it's opening back up some. Hopefully, it's for good. To me, at this point, you just kind of have to rip off the Band-Aid and hope for the best. I think you can't just keep the world from functioning just because. I'm not into the political side of it. I'm really not. But I think it's time that the world is allowed to function again and let everybody take their chances.
Yeah,
I think we all have a right to that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, huge parts of Europe are back to normal. Like, we don't feel it in Europe anymore. Like, Hungary is completely open. I think you play in Budapest soon, right? You play in Budapest soon, right?
With Trouble, I think maybe next year we might be doing a date there. We had a European tour booked that I think is actually supposed to be wrapping up right now, but we had to cancel it. There were just too many question marks at the time. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear that it seems like it's opening up again, though, because we'd like to reschedule a tour over there, and we've got some festival dates next year. So EXHORDER's doing so far the only European dates next year are Alcatraz Fest and Brutal Assault. But
perfect, I'm coming.
Me too.
Me too.
Good.
Absolutely, Brutal Assault is awesome.
It's awesome.
It really is cool. It really is cool.
Yeah.
And then Trouble has some dates. We're doing Sweden Rock. We're doing some UK and Ireland dates, and I think maybe a few dates in the European mainland as well. So I think Trouble will be out probably about 2 weeks. That's not a very long run, of course, but for Trouble, that's a lot.
Yeah, cool, nice. And do you write new material for EXHORDER as well?
Yes, we've started doing some of the production for the album. We don't all live in the same area, so we tend to do the most of our work. We fly over to Jason's house in Ohio, and we'll stay with him for some time. For instance, when we just did the Psycho Las Vegas Fest, we got there August 4th, and we just started working. And the show wasn't until August 20th, but we worked really hard for 2 weeks, just rehearsing, working on new material, working on the set. And by the time we got to play that show, we were on fire. We were definitely well prepared. So we're going to do the same thing for this tour. We'll probably about a week before we leave, we're going to start rehearsing and see if we can't get any more progress on this recording. But this tour is going to be fairly long. I think it's by the time we leave and by the time we get back, it's going to be a full month.
Wow.
It looks like you are very active, more than the 80s, EXHORDER.
Very active what?
More than the 80s.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, we were we were young, inexperienced. There weren't a lot of tour opportunities for us back then, for starters, because we were a new band. But when we did start, by the time we released Slaughter in the Vatican, our drummer Chris was in college, so we really we couldn't go out on long trips without it being carefully planned. So we ended up doing a really kind of small headlining tour of Europe in 1991, and then we really didn't even tour the U.S. on Slaughter in the Vatican. We just played regional shows here and there, and then when the law came out, we did a full U.S. tour and a European tour, But again, it was tough because of Chris's situation. And I don't know, I think if we had stayed together and persevered, I don't see any reason why we couldn't be as big as some of the bands that came up around us at the same time, you know, the Sepultura, Testament type bands. I really believe that we could have been as big as any of them, but you know, that we'll never know because we took 27 years off, you know. So at this point, we really feel blessed that every time we walk away and come back, it always seems to be bigger than it was before. Why, I don't know, but I'm not going to argue with it. It's a blessing to be in that position. So,
because you guys are awesome, you know, your music is awesome. For me, you have been always on the top list, you know. I mean, I remember I bought the Slaughterinthevatican album because like, I like the cover. Like I thought I spiritually resonate with that. So I bought the album and I listened to it since ages, and it's one of the best thrash albums for me in history. It can easily, I put you above Testament or other bands personally.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I mean,
and I also can promise you that since Slaughterinthevatican came out, each and every of my girlfriends hate you. That I also can tell you.
What did I do?
I just play your music, you know. So, you know.
Yeah. They don't want to share you with me, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I make all the girls jealous.
Yeah, I mean, you have been late to the game. Like death metal came up at that time already. Like thrash metal was just a short period of time thing, you know? And
yeah, timing was bad for us. I mean, think about it. This band started getting put together in late 1985, and I joined in 1986. And I was the last one to join. So really at the time, you had Slayer, Metallica, Megadeth, Exodus, Celtic Frost, and then, you know, crossover bands like COC, DRI. All these bands were already in motion, and they were the ones that kind of set the tone for us. But we started writing these songs. The songs on Slaughter in the Vatican, most of those were written in either 1985 or 1986, some of them in 1987, and one in 1988. But for the most part, by the time it came out in 90, these songs were old in our opinion, you know, like these were old songs, but they were just fresh and new to the world. So by the time we got out and started finally getting to where we wanted to be, like you said, thrash was kind of coming down and death metal was coming up. So it was weird. And not to mention, we're not a pure thrash band. We've got so many different elements about us, especially from the punk side, that we never were just a true metal band. So I think back then that all mattered a lot more than it does now. I think now it's a lot easier for people to explore different genres. And I mean, there's so many genres. Back then it was just heavy metal, and then it was glam metal or thrash metal. And then there was, you know, well, there's black metal, don't forget that too. And then, you know, then you start getting the subgenres like, you know, new metal and, you know, I don't know, black doom metal. Like there's all kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
To me, it's just, I don't know why everything needs to have a shelf to be put on. I don't understand that. I really feel like we could go on tour with a band like Exodus, fit in just fine. And I think we could also go on tour with a band like the Melvins and fit in just fine. So to me, it's, you know, if it's in the 70s, I think they had it right, because you could go see a tour with the Rolling Stones, Leonard Skinner, Fleetwood Mac, and Earth, Wind and Fire, and nobody had a problem with it. But you know, I think now everything's just gotten to be too classified, and I think a lot of people, as a result, tend to maybe get a little less open-minded about music.
So Kyle, how would you describe the music that you're writing now? You're talking about you guys are working on new material. How would you describe that?
Well, for EXHORDER, we're very careful to construct songs that make sense for EXHORDER. So you know, we're probably going back to a little bit more mean and angry, but you know, with three or all four of us really are contributing to the writing on this album. So it's going to have some different flavor than it's had before, with me being the only one of the original members left. But these guys have been in this band for so long, and every single one of them was a fan of this band before they got in. So, you know, that really makes a huge difference. I think understanding what an EXHORDER song needs to be versus what a Trouble song needs to be for me is huge. I don't want to do too much of a deviation from what we do. It's good to do things differently. And I think we did that with Mourn the Southern Skies. We came out with, sonically, the sound is exactly the album that we always wanted. And cool. There is a handful of the music on that album that is old school type EXHORDER, but there was a lot too that was a bit of a departure for what we, or I shouldn't say a departure from what we do, but a departure from what people know that we do. There was nothing uncommon for us when we played shows back in the 80s and 90s to break out into funk jams or blues jams. And, you know, a lot of times we would do covers and remakes of stuff that wasn't even like what we were doing, because we are such fans of music in general, and never really felt like we belonged to one category. So to answer your question, the new EXHORDER stuff is definitely EXHORDER stuff. You know, just don't expect Slaughter in the Vatican Part 2. It's never going to happen. It wasn't going to happen with anybody that was in the band before, so it's not going to happen now. But we are doing our very best to stay true to what this band is, and I think people will be satisfied once it comes out. It's a dark and angry album, that's for sure.
Awesome.
I like that. I like that.
Let me know something about the city, Kyle, because you're in a city like is very musical, I think.
Yes.
It's famous because of that. So you can breathe that air in the area. I mean, not just metal, I mean music.
You're correct. When we were small children, and long before I was a child, back, you're talking about, you can go all the way back to, they call New Orleans the birthplace of jazz. Jazz really got popularized in Chicago, but it was the musicians from the South that grew frustrated, I think, that they couldn't make it happen here. So they went to Chicago. There was a better business opportunity. But so much of the jazz root and heritage is here in New Orleans. So, think about that and Mississippi Delta blues. So you got jazz and blues right out the gates. Well, then you start getting into the 50s and 60s, and there was a lot of pop on the radio then that was very successful. Some of them ended up being one-hit wonders, but a lot of them had some longevity. Fats Domino, Irma Thomas, Clarence Frogman Henry. These people, they all had hits, and they may not all be household names. Fats Domino is pretty household name, but there's a lot of top 40 radio hit that came out of Louisiana, and that influenced the next generation, which would have been Dr. John, the Meters, the Neville Brothers, and so forth. And then it keeps evolving. Today you've got Galactic, Kermit Ruffins. There's always a traditional Louisiana or New Orleans thing here that's still legitimate and loved worldwide. Now that doesn't mean that it's as big everywhere else, but you know, it still has a strong influence. So for us growing up as children, and these songs are some of the first songs you learn in your life, and they stick with you. And as I learned how to play trumpet first, I got a lot of that kind of structure in my fundamental upbringing of music. So by the time I started playing bass when I was a teenager, really getting locked into that groove, you know, you get 4 or 5 teenagers that are born and raised in Louisiana, and they start writing music together. It's going to sound a little bit like traditional New Orleans music, perhaps maybe just played by the Devil's Band.
Right. What brought you into metal then personally? What was your first touch with metal?
The first heavy music I can remember hearing that really resonated with me. Now, of course, my first musical memory is Come Together by the Beatles. And towards that point in the Beatles' career, they were starting to experiment with a heavier sound. So it may not be distorted guitar heavy, but that's the first thing that really grabbed me, and I felt it and made me want to shake my ass, you know? So after that, I was born in 1970. So, you know, I was a small child in the 70s, but my sisters usually brought home cool music, and we listened to the radio in the car. And so, you know, Led Zeppelin, Bad Company, you know, of course, and they, you know, my sister liked a lot of disco too. And I remember the disco, man, it's like, I liked a lot of the disco, and some people laugh at it today. It's like, man, you got to be a real musician to play disco. That's no joke, you know? So, and I had a wide spectrum of stuff. Then I heard Kiss and saw Kiss on TV. And I was like, I have to do that. I want to do that, you know? So, you know, I saw Tommy at the movie theater when I was a kid, you know, the Who movie. These things all like really had a major impact on me. Kiss was my first real favorite band. Kiss and Queen. My brother had gotten Queen record for Christmas one year, and I got Walt Disney's Greatest Hits, and I was mad because I thought I was a baby. So the next year, he brought my brother another Queen album and brought me Kiss Love Gun. And I wasn't sure why I really liked that album cover, but I did. So yeah, the Kiss songs really resonated with me. But I think, you know, I liked music in general across the board. I want to say probably until I was about 12 years old when my brother brought home Ozzy Osbourne, Diary of a Madman. And I was like, I wanted to hate it so bad because my brother liked it. But after a while, I'm like, I love it, you know. So then I was like, well, I've heard of Black Sabbath. My sisters didn't listen to Black Sabbath, but I had heard of Black Sabbath. So I was like, well, this Ozzy guy sang in Black Sabbath. So then started checking out Black Sabbath. I was like, whoa, you know, and then AC/DC, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, and, you know, eventually, you know, Twisted Sister, Rat, Queensryche. And then when I started hearing Slayer and Metallica and Merciful Fate and, you know, Celtic Frost, Exodus, then like, wow, you know, I'm kind of over this metal here, and this metal is speaking to me more. And then, you know, my brother really got into punk rock, and he was trying to turn me on to like Dead Kennedys and Sex Pistols and stuff like that, Circle Jerks. And I was like, that's kind of cool, but no, it's not heavy metal. Well, then I heard Animosity by COC and Dealing With It by DRI. And I was like, wait, that's punk? Well, that sounds like punk metal. And that's what my brother said. It's like, it's not that different, man. So then bands like Dead Kennedys and Bad Brains and all these other bands started making sense to me. And I think once the punk crossover and metal into metal thing happened for me, I think that's when I really finally started throwing away my need to have a music that's labeled, you know, like after that, it's like, once you start hanging around with punk rock people and understand the mindset, I think it changes you forever. It did for me in a good way.
Yeah, well, it's awesome, your influence. I wonder if where did you get your voice? Because your voice is very, very particular for thrash metal. You can recognize EXHORDER immediately. I mean,
that's good. That's a good problem to have, right?
No, awesome.
You know, the funny thing about singing for me is that I never ever wanted to be a singer. Not one day did I ever go, I think I'd like to be a singer. I was a bass player, and I was playing along with Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath records. I would put on the first 5 Iron Maiden records and just play along with them on bass. On this bass right here, I still have it. This is still the same, my first bass.
Awesome.
And I still use it to write and record my songs. But I think what happened was I was singing backup at practice and playing parties and stuff with these guys, or I'd take a song just to give the singer a break, and people started turning and going, hey, wow, like here, let's give you a microphone and let's take that bass, you know. And that made me angry, because I was a bass player. This is not my so then I started getting to the point where people would only offer me a spot in the band if it was for singing. And so I said, well, screw it. I'll do this until I get another bass gig. I'll just do this for a little while. And then I ended up meeting the other guys who we would eventually form EXHORDER with at a punk rock show, at a DRI show in 1986. And I went and jammed with them, and that was it. And I was like, okay, we started playing shows, and now we got like 500 kids coming to see us play. I'm like, well, I guess I'm a singer now. So, so when the school year started back up, I went and talked to the choral director and asked if I could join the chorus, and he sat me down with a piano, and I followed the notes. He's like, yeah, you're good. Let's do this. So I joined the chorus at school, just kind of like, just to help me get a little better at being the singer of EXHORDER, you know? And it turned out, by the time I graduated my senior year of high school, my classmates voted me Outstanding Singer of the Year. And then the next year I sang Beethoven's Ninth Symphony with the New Orleans Symphony for 2 sold-out shows here at the Orpheum Theater. And if you've never been to the symphony, it's an experience. To be on stage with 60-something other people and not one electric instrument, and it's the most intense, heavy experience that I've ever had musically in my life.
Wow.
I'll never forget it. I'm grateful I did it, because it really did. It took me a while. I want to say it may have even taken me 10 years after that before I really started figuring out how to take that choral singing and the rock singing and put them together. But I'm glad I finally put it together, because the things that I'm capable of doing now versus what I was doing when I was a young teenager or a young man, I'm light years ahead of where I was then. And that's not fair, because if I sang like this then, I'd probably be rich.
Would you ever do that again?
Would I ever do it again?
Yeah, now.
What, start over? That doesn't sound
sing it like a Beethoven symphony, or you know.
Yeah, I would. In fact,
awesome.
The guy who is now the choral director at the high school I went to was actually the piano player for the chorus the years that I was in it. So yeah, but we were classmates, so we talk a little bit here and there, you know, especially since I'm a vocal instructor and he instructs the chorus. I bounce ideas off of him here and there. And I actually went and sang with them at a basketball game, a college basketball game, and we sang the national anthem. And I hadn't sang in a choral situation like that since I was in college.
Wow.
So that was a really cool experience. But and I was going to start singing with them more often, but I just didn't really have the time at the time.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'd like to maybe get back to that at some point, but you know, I've got so much going on right now. I'm avoiding phone calls and emails right now because I don't have things finished that I'm supposed to.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Right. Do you still have a good metal scene in New Orleans?
Yeah, it's I think people are a lot more spoiled than they were when we were young. When we were young, people were so hungry for it. You know, you didn't even have to be a terribly good band, and you'd have a few hundred people come see you just because people enjoyed going to the show. And I think the whole do-it-yourself grassroots thing back then was really, you're like, wow, we actually are doing this ourselves, and it feels big, you know. But like, I think now a lot of people don't want to leave their house unless it's like a national act or one of the bigger bands, and it's harder now for younger bands to really build. I would hate to be a band starting out right now. It's just so difficult to start out as a new act right now. So for me, if I didn't have these old bands that have legacy names already, I doubt seriously I'd be doing a whole lot of touring, because it's just too hard. Too hard to do without a lot of financial backing. And for an old man like me, if I don't have a bunk to lay in when I'm touring, then I'm going to be a very unhappy person.
Right.
And,
it's incredibly hard.
Young bands can't afford to tour like that. It's just not in the budget. So
yeah, it's incredibly hard to start nowadays.
There are some clubs here in New Orleans where there are there's a strong local following. There is.
Okay.
Yeah. Talking about,
I mean, when I go on YouTube, there's so many bands I've never heard of, but play so great music. It's like infinite. I can't even keep up remembering the band names. So it's so much competition.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I get people ask me all the time, you heard of this band? No. You heard of this band? No. What do you mean? They're huge. Doesn't mean I've heard of them. And when we go play the festivals, it's crazy. Like if I go play festivals with Trouble, there's usually a good 5 or 6 bands on the bill that I'm like, yeah, I need to go see this band. I've been looking to see this band. And then like when I play the festivals with EXHORDER, I look and I'm like, I've heard of this band and I've heard of this band, and the rest I don't know. And that's no knocks against those bands. I'm not trying to, disparage them in any way. But for me, I really stopped listening to the style of music that I play. Probably, I really haven't listened to much thrash since the 90s. I just really didn't stay with it as a fan. And doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. Like if I'm on tour and there's a good band playing, I enjoy it. But at 51 years old, I guess it just doesn't speak to me as a music listener the way it used to. So I guess in a way that's kind of good, because I think if I listened to a lot of thrash, then that influence would probably come through in the thrash that I write. So I would rather that my thrash that I write have influences from things that aren't particularly similar to it. I think it helps. To me, it helps bands sound different from each other.
Yeah, but I think that your music influenced a lot of bands. Some groups like you, like EXHORDER, and the time when I was a kid, and COC, the early days of Sepultura and Pantera also. All those bands were so amazing, so powerful at that time. I don't know if there's gonna be any other way like that.
Yeah, I mean, everything over time, I think, evolves and changes some. And back then, there was so much happening so quickly. It was like lightning in a bottle, they say. Think about it. In a very short period of time, you had albums like Ride the Lightning, Hella Weights,
Yeah,
Bonded by Blood, Morbid Tales, and these all came out like almost all at the same time. So the growth of this type of music happened very quickly and exploded. And I'm glad to see today that there's been a resurgence of interest in it. If there wasn't, then I wouldn't be up here playing these songs and talking about the upcoming album that I have with you guys. So, you know, for how long, I don't know. You know, the music is and trends and fashion and stuff are cyclical for sure.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, here we go. Iron Maiden just released an album that did better on the charts for them ever. You know, it's like, you think about how hard they toured for Power Slave, and they were on the road for like what, 18 months or something crazy like that. And to think that this album came out and got a better chart position than that one did. And they've never had a top 40 radio hit. How does a band play to 100,000 people with no top 40 hit? That's incredible. Just, it's testament to how many people truly love metal, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm positively surprised about the metal scene. I'm almost your age. I'm 46 now, just a few years apart. And the metal scene is so strong nowadays. Personally, I got more into metal with age. Like I get each time a bit harder, each time a bit more extreme. And when we had been young, you know, nobody knew where it goes. Everybody assumed, okay, it will last 5 years, then everybody will give up because it's just too hard stuff, you know, nobody will be interested anymore. Now here we are 30 years later, and you have such a massive metal scene, and young people pick it up. We interviewed one band of like, I don't know the age exactly, Brutality. They're like 18 years old, 17 years old, playing thrash metal. And wow, how do they come to that? Picking up the same style as Metallica, like 30 years ago. It's just fascinating.
Nice. Yeah, I think one of the things that we've noticed, especially at the European festivals the last few years, is how many young people are there. You know, not just people bringing their children, but people in their late teens and early 20s. And that's how music survives. When everybody at the show is my age, that tells me I've got about 3 or 4 good years left of this. But with young kids, you know, I mean, like you're saying with the young band you were just talking about, last weekend, we went to go see some bands play, some friends of ours, and one of the opening bands, the son of some of my friends, he's playing drums in. I mean, he's 18. The other guys are like in their early 20s. They're called Heraklion, and they were great. It's like a 3-piece thrash band, you know, kind of in the, I guess, in the old school Sepultura vibe. But they were kids, and they were killing it with energy and the passion that we had when we were first starting. I was like, it was, to me, it was such a sight for sore eyes to watch young men really getting after it hard in a genre that, you know, isn't necessarily speaking to a lot of people in their generation, you know, but it's speaking to more than it has in a while. So that's a good thing.
Right. Okay, one definite question. What was the craziest story you can share from a tour? It's the craziest touring experience.
Oh, man. Man, okay. One that I can say without possibly getting sued.
2 or 3.
If you're going to ask me the craziest tour story I have, it has to be the tour that EXHORDER got kicked off of. 1992, we were touring with Entombed and Dead Horse. And Ripping Corpse did the first leg of that tour, and then Dead Horse did the back end of that tour. And we were friends already with Dead Horse for a long time. So, and we were all pretty rowdy. They're from Texas, we're from Louisiana. So right there, we're already kindred spirits. And so, you know, we're just getting shit-faced every night on this tour, and then traveling to the next show. Well, we played a show. I want to say it was in California. It was somewhere like Los Angeles or Riverside or somewhere. And I walked into the backstage area, and it was like a circus going on in there. And, you know, people were taking apples and oranges and standing from one end of the room to the other. And there was a hole in the wall where there used to be like a clock or something. So everybody's throwing the produce at this hole, trying to get the produce into the hole, and it's splatting all over the place. And sometimes somebody make it in, and it's like, hey, go, you know. And I mean, people were taking popcorn and throwing it on the ground and just grinding the popcorn into the carpet and just really breaking things. Nothing nice and nothing cool. But I guess at the time, rowdy young men having fun in a rock and roll mindset, you know, it just kind of got away. Everybody got carried away. So I can't say for sure who exactly did it, because but somebody took a shit on a plate.
Nice.
And then somebody took a fork and stuck the fork into the turd on the plate. So the fork was just standing like this in the turd. And then somebody took a metal bowl that had salad in it, dumped the salad out, and covered the dish. So there's a plate with a bowl. And when people walk in the room, they'd lift it and go, pate, pate, pate. Just really disgusting. And I don't know how true this is, but I just saw Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse at Psycho Las Vegas, and we were sitting at the bar talking, and he swears up and down, I don't remember this, and I think he's wrong, but he swears he's not wrong. He swears it was me lifting the bowl saying pate. In any event, what happened was the cleaning lady for the venue walked into the room, and she looked at the room, and the whole place just went silent. We felt bad instantly, and she started getting teary-eyed, and she's walking around just looking at everything like, and we realized, oh no, she's the one that has to clean this up. And as she's walking out the room, she sees the bowl, and she lifts the bowl and sees the turd with the fork in it. And she just looked at it, set the bowl back down, walked out the room, and just started gently crying.
Oh,
so the next day we got kicked off the tour. So
Okay.
here.
Well
It's all
done.
our fault. I always joke around and say, yeah, Dad kicked off the tour, and they'll be like, oh no, that was y'all too. So I mean, we were all accountable for it. There's no doubt about it. But we were the ones that got punished for it. And you know, I'm glad Dead Horse didn't get thrown off also. But they were kind of looking to kick us off that tour at first. Anyway, and it wasn't the guys in the band with Entomb that we had a problem with. We got along nicely with them, but their management and us did not get along. At first, our crew and them did not get along, but that wasn't their fault or our fault. That was miscommunication between our label and their management, and things that were supposed to happen that didn't happen. And there was a time when we had a reputation for being difficult to deal with. So I guess on that tour, we were probably pretty difficult to deal with. So
right.
Now you're the manager of Sordo. So we must talk with you to tour, isn't it?
yeah. Everything at the moment comes through me. And then, you know, I get with the guys and we sit down kind of in a meeting situation, not unlike what we're doing right here.
Yep.
and we discuss our options, and we vote on things in a democratic fashion. You know, like we things come to us, we discuss them, and we say yes, no, and majority rules. So yeah, we're booked through continental touring in the U.S. and decibel touring in Europe. So that's where the touring and festival questions are funneled through. But ultimately, that comes back to me, and then we vote on it.
Well, it's like you have the control. You don't have any management stuff. External stuff for the band.
We did have management for a while, but we currently do not. So really, since the beginning of the early part of last year, I've been acting manager. But like I said, I do rely heavily on the input from the team. So, but yeah, we do it all ourselves. I run the merch in the U.S. I've licensed it out in Europe. I deal with the booking agents. I deal with like you guys. I do the scheduling for interviews and stuff. So I'm a man with many hats, and I don't know. I think working for free builds character.
Yeah.
I wonder if the band EXHORDER is gonna play next year in South America, because I'm in Argentina right now.
I would love to be honest with you. What's the name? Moises from Chrysium.
Yeah.
When we were on tour, started talking to us about a festival there. Is it September Negro? Is that it?
Yeah.
It's a festival down there in Brazil, I think.
In Brazil, yeah.
That he was telling us about, and we started talking to our booking agent about it, and he said, "Would y'all like to go do South American dates?" I was like, "Yes, we've never played Central America or South America, so absolutely. We've always had a strong following in countries south of us. So why we've never been there, I don't know, but I'd like to. So nothing booked right now, but I'm definitely going to start pushing for that, because I think it could really be a surprisingly magical experience to play for people who've been supporting us for 30-something years and just haven't had an opportunity to hang out with us live.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we are open arms to you, man.
Yeah, Federico is organizing a metal festival in Patagonia right now, looking to restart everything in Patagonia and the south of Argentina. And maybe we can arrange something. Yeah, it would be cool.
Why not?
Yeah. Well, my agent is Daniel DeFonts.
Okay.
With Continental Tour. Actually, if you go to EXHORDER.com, all of our booking information is there. So anybody who's watching, listening, in Europe, it's Volkmar Udry with Decibel Touring, and in North America, it's Continental with Daniel DeFonts, and he would be the one to talk to about South American dates for sure.
Great. Cool. And Christian, that would be awesome. Awesome tour for South America.
Man, we shared a bus with Christian and Cataclysm for nearly a month, and I really love all of those guys very much. We all got along very well. We're all about the same age, give or take a few years, and we all enjoy kind of the same things in life. So it's tough when you put a lot of people that don't know each other onto a bus. You don't always know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
But that was one of the most pleasant tour experiences I ever had, with some of the best people I maybe will ever know.
Wow.
Cool.
Okay. Hope to see you here next year, maybe in September. That could be a nice date. It's the date of Rock in Rio also in Brazil.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in the beginning of September. So
I may have to go email Dan and see what we can do about getting us that way next year. I think that'd be amazing.
That would be interesting.
Awesome.
So,
awesome.
Good, guys.
Okay, man. Thanks for your time. It was absolutely great talking to you. And looking forward to the new EXHORDER album and the other projects.
Yeah, man. I'm so stoked to be able to. Yeah, I always I said as soon as the pandemic hit, I said, well, I tell you what, if there are any bands that don't have a whole lot of songs written by the time this thing's over, then they were wasting their time, because I had so much time to myself in this room right here. I probably either finished writing or started and finished writing. I don't know, probably close to 20, 30 songs just since lockdown. And that's not to say that they're all going to be used, but you know, I've at least got that many, you know, that are either finished or almost finished. So I try to make the best of the situation. You know, that's all you can do.
Yeah. And Kyle, when does the next album come out? Do you have like a date in mind?
I wish I could say yes, but
okay.
At this point, we've got probably about 9 or 10 songs that we're working on, constructing still.
Okay.
Some of them are finished.
Okay.
Some are still in construction. Problem is as we're working on them, everybody, you know, I just finished a new one the other day, and I know Marzi's had like 3 or 4 new ones since we started recording the songs, and Jason's putting a couple more together. So it's like, I was like, well, wait, I got, you know, at some point we're gonna have to draw the line and say, all right, this is this album, and then at least now we've got a head start on the next one.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. All right, so next year sometime.
I would say next year.
Yeah.
You know, if not before summertime, hopefully shortly after.
All right, looking forward to it, man. It was great to meet you. Enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of the year, man. And thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, it's really been a pleasure. The conversation was good. It's nice to talk with people who enjoy cutting up and laughing as much as I do.
Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Really nice to
Thanks,
meet you.
man.
Talk soon. Bye.
Yes. All right, y'all. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Kyle. See ya.